Hello everybody and welcome back to LRN. Today we are talking about the top things I'm looking forward to this weekend at the Singapore Grand Prix, a Grand Prix I'm really excited about. It feels like ages since we've had any F1 action, and it has been ages since we've had a Grand Prix at Singapore. So really excited for this one. But going to go through some things you definitely need to be looking out for. If you are new around here though, please make sure to subscribe on the bottom right hand side and leave some comments below to let me know what you're thinking about the Grand Prix, what you're most excited for this weekend, and what you like most about Singapore and what you think is going to happen. Who do you think is going to win at the Singapore Grand Prix? Is Max Verstappen going to continue his dominance, or are we going to see another car come up? Maybe Perez finally getting a result for Red Bull, maybe one of the Ferraris stepping up their game, or maybe even a resurgent Mercedes. We will see. But let me know what your predictions are in the comments below. We're going to kick it off though with Max Verstappen and the fact that he can win his second Drivers' World Championship this weekend. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on if things all go his way. So he needs to be beating Perez, Leclerc and Russell. They're the ones that he needs to beat by a certain amount of points. So basically he has to win and hope that Leclerc doesn't really finish anywhere decent in the points. So if Leclerc finishes right down the bottom of the points, assuming Verstappen's going to win, this is how he would manage to get the championship. So he would need Leclerc right down the bottom. He would need Russell at least 6 points behind him. So to be fair, I think whatever happens, if Verstappen wins, Russell's out of it, because if Verstappen gets the fastest lap, that race is done. Even if he doesn't, Russell would be out of the race. Although, of course, he's not really in it, but mathematically, that would be him out of it. And Perez as well, he needs to beat by a decent margin. So if Perez finishes outside the top four and Verstappen wins and gets the fastest lap, we'll see a Verstappen World Championship as well. So it's likely that we won't see a Verstappen championship win this weekend, because you wouldn't expect Leclerc to finish that far down the points order. I think Perez finishing outside the top 4 or 5 is feasible. If you have a resurgent Mercedes, if Ferrari are on form, Perez is not having the best season. So to see him further down is certainly possible. Definitely one to look out for there. Russell, I would of course expect Verstappen to beat Russell by at least 6 points. If he does get a podium though, it's probably going to be because something's happened to the Ferraris. We've certainly seen that happen elsewhere this season. It could be that another power unit failure for the Ferrari is what ends up costing them and handing Max Verstappen the championship this weekend. So definitely something to look out for. Really going to be exciting to see, and especially if we do have a power unit issue for the Ferraris. Maybe we might even finally get a power unit issue for the Red Bulls, and we'll get a little bit of excitement towards the end of the season. If, let's say, we had a double DNF for the Red Bulls and a 1-2 for Ferrari, could we get a little bit of excitement towards the end of the year in terms of the Constructors' Championship? Probably not, but it would at least open the door if, Red Bull were to have an absolute nightmare over the next couple of races to allow Ferrari back in with a little bit of a shout. But certainly it's been certain for a little while that Red Bull, especially given their form, their reliability has been absolutely on point. I would expect them to see out with see it out with no problems whatsoever. But we will certainly see as we move through the weekend. Second thing to be aware of and to keep an eye out for is Albon's return. So really good news this one. Happy to see Albon back on the F1 grid this weekend. Of course, we know the complications he had from his what was supposed to be straightforward surgery a couple of weeks back before the Monza Grand Prix, which of course kept him out and gave Nick de Vries a chance in the Williams at Monza. So going to be really good to see him back on the track this weekend, hopefully on form as well. Very conscious, of course, that he's not had the usual amount of training. He is coming back from his operation, and the Singapore Grand Prix is one of the most grueling Grand Prix on the calendar. So it's going to be a real test for his body as he has come back and recovered from his surgery. So hopefully, of course, everything goes well for Albon. I'll be glad to see him back and just wish him all the best for this weekend. I think if he can score some points, that would be absolutely amazing. But just to see him get through the Grand Prix unscathed, no issues, no complications, get to the end, have a good race, that would be fantastic. So another thing to keep an eye out for there. Another thing, of course, McLaren's new livery. Personally, I'm a fan of it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you like the pink dashes? Sort of the bits they've done around the back with sort of the technological bit, the upgrade bits that they've kind of alluded to in their new livery. What do we think? Certainly, I'm a fan of it. I know it's going to be around a couple of races. I do like special liveries when teams get them right, and I think McLaren's looks pretty decent. So, going to be looking forward to seeing that around the track. I just hope it's on a quick car and that they have a strong weekend. The fight between Alpine and McLaren is getting a bit bigger of a gap than I was hoping for in that race between those two teams. Alpine are pretty dominant in that department at the moment, so we do need McLaren to have a good weekend to make again that battle between those two teams competitive and exciting towards the end of this season. So definitely one I'm hoping for that McLaren can have a strong weekend, but unfortunately for them, and another thing to look out for this weekend is Alpine's upgrades. They've got some big upgrades to the floor coming this weekend that they're expecting to give them a really good performance gain. I know there's upgrades for McLaren as well, but Alpine are really, really hopeful that these upgrades are going to be significant for them, which would be a real, disappointment for McLaren if they end up either staying exactly where they are in the deficit to Alpine or potentially even falling further behind, and again giving Alpine a massive advantage to see out their position in fourth in the Constructors' Championship. So something definitely to look out for. Finally, the last thing to look out for this weekend is the return of porpoising as a huge issue on the grid. Now, Singapore is known as one of the most bouncy tracks again on the calendar. Now, Mercedes are kind of hoping from a high downforce perspective that they're going to be back in the running on pace this weekend. And even with the porpoising, you'd expect their pace will be fine. But in terms of the damage to potentially the drivers, Hamilton and Russell, that could be huge. We know the complaints we had earlier in the season. Baku stands out as where they had real issues, really struggling with Hamilton, especially with his back at the end of that race. So definitely something to look out for. We've seen the FIA have kind of loosened the limits in terms of the porpoising allowed on the car because they're aware that this weekend's going to cause a proper issue. So they don't want to be too unfair and cause too much of a penalty to cars' performance by being really strict on those rules. So they have loosened them a little bit, which from that perspective is good for Mercedes as a team as they look for points. But in terms of the drivers and what they're going to go through this weekend, it's potentially awful. Hopefully the upgrades that Mercedes have brought through this season do alleviate some of that and do mean that they're not going crazy on the porpoising, but it's definitely something to look out for. And after a full weekend in that car in terms of all the practice sessions, the qualifying and the race, it could be really difficult for Hamilton and Russell especially. There will be other cars on the grid suffering from it, but we know how bad that Mercedes has been. It could potentially be really bad for them and again start to raise those conversations of what's allowed and how much we see rules change into the following season if it is really bad, because I don't suspect Singapore's going anywhere, and they can argue one race having to deal with that as too many, so that could definitely impact the rules. So again, something to look out for. And finally, the last thing I want to do is just give my prediction for this weekend. And I definitely want to know yours. So do let me know in the comments below what you think is going to happen. But my predictions, I'll go for the top 5 this weekend. I'm going to go for a Verstappen win. I don't think anyone can really bet against him at the moment. I think he's just too quick. I think his car's too good. So we'll see. But I do think Verstappen first. I'm then going to go for Charles Leclerc to come back second. I'm going to go for Hamilton in third. I think, again, even if they've got porpoising issues, I expect the Mercedes team to be resurgent and Hamilton to be coming back with a bit between his teeth to kind of show that he's still got it. So I'm going to go Hamilton third, Russell fourth, and Perez fifth. I think Perez may struggle this weekend or have issues with his car. But again, I could be completely wrong, and I'm looking forward to seeing how wrong I am when we get to the race proper on Sunday. So let me know your top 5 in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you're most excited about. And again, please make sure to subscribe if you are new around here. Really, really helps the channel out. And make sure to hit a like on the video. Otherwise, I'm just going to hope you all really enjoy the race this weekend. I'll be back with a reaction video on Sunday once the Grand Prix has taken place. So make sure to look out for that and hit that bell icon to be notified of when that video goes live. Otherwise, just going to thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Goodbye.